Before the sun even touched the windows, the day had already decided who would suffer, who would survive, and who would be forgotten. In 1900 America, an ordinary day was not ordinary at all. It was a quiet test of endurance that most modern people would not last a single hour in. At dawn in 1900, America woke up without alarms. No buzzing phones, no digital clocks glowing in the dark. A day began because the body demanded it, or because work allowed no mercy. In a wooden house on a dirt street, a man stirred from a thin mattress stuffed with straw. The air was cold, even in summer, because insulation barely existed. He dressed quickly, not for comfort, but for durability. Thick cotton. Before the sun even touched the windows, the day had already decided who would suffer, who would survive, and who would be forgotten. In 1900 America, an ordinary day was not ordinary at all. It was a quiet test of endurance that most modern people would not last a single hour in. At dawn in 1900, America woke up without alarms. No buzzing phones, no digital clocks glowing in the dark. A day began because the body demanded it, or because work allowed no mercy. In a wooden house on a dirt street, a man stirred from a thin mattress stuffed with straw. The air was cold, even in summer, because insulation barely existed. He dressed quickly, not for comfort, but for durability. Thick cotton, wool, leather boots already worn from years of use. Clothing was expensive, repaired endlessly, and owned in small numbers. What he wore today might be what he wore tomorrow and the day after that. Water did not come from a tap. If the family was lucky, there was a hand pump in the yard. If not, a shared well down the street. The water was heavy, metallic in taste, sometimes carrying disease no one could see. Germ theory was still new, and many distrusted it. Children drank from the same cups as adults. Illness was common, sudden, and often fatal. A fever could mean death within days. A cut could mean infection, then amputation, then burial. Breakfast was simple and repetitive. Bread, maybe cornmeal mush, sometimes bacon if money allowed. Coffee was weak but essential. Milk was risky, it spoiled quickly and was rarely pasteurized. Food safety laws barely existed. What people ate depended less on preference and more on survival. Hunger was familiar. Fullness was rare. As the sun climbed, the city or the countryside came alive with noise that modern ears would find overwhelming. Horses' hooves on stone streets, the creak of wagons, steam engines coughing black smoke into the sky. Factories did not hide their pollution, they celebrated it. Smoke meant jobs, smoke meant progress. The sky above industrial cities like Pittsburgh or Chicago often stayed gray even at noon. Men left for work knowing there were no safety nets, no workers' compensation, no guaranteed wages. If you were injured, you were replaced. If you died, your family figured it out alone. A factory worker might stand for 12 hours, inhaling dust that slowly destroyed his lungs. A coal miner descended into darkness every day, aware that explosions, collapses, and poison gas were not rare tragedies, but routine risks. Child labor was not shocking, it was expected. Boys as young as 8 worked in mines, mills, and farms. Girls stitched clothing in crowded rooms or helped raise siblings while their mothers worked. School was a luxury. Education was valuable, yes, but survival was more urgent. Many children never learned to read fluently. Many never reached adulthood. For women, the day carried a different kind of weight. Housework was physically exhausting. Laundry meant boiling water over fire, scrubbing by hand, wringing heavy fabric until arms burned. Cooking meant hours of preparation, no refrigeration, constant fear of spoilage. Pregnancy was dangerous, childbirth was deadly. 1 out of every 100 women might die giving birth. Many more lost children. Grief was not a single event, it was a permanent resident in the home. Medicine offered little comfort. Doctors often worked without gloves, without sterilized tools, without real understanding of infection. Hospitals were places of last resort, feared more than trusted. Pain relief was minimal. Antibiotics did not exist. A broken bone could heal crooked. A toothache could become fatal. Life expectancy hovered around the late 40s, not because people aged quickly, but because so many died young. Yet in the middle of all this hardship, something quietly powerful existed: community. Neighbors knew each other's names, struggles, and secrets. Doors were left unlocked, not because crime didn't exist, but because isolation was more dangerous than trust. If a family lost a father in an accident, others brought food. If a mother fell ill, neighbors watched the children. Survival was collective. By midday, streets were busy. News traveled slowly but intensely. Newspapers were thick with text, sensational headlines, and little concern for emotional impact. Stories of lynchings, factory fires, and political corruption sat beside advertisements promising miracle cures and instant wealth. The American dream was already being sold, but few could afford it. Immigrants poured into cities, carrying languages, religions, and hopes. Ellis Island processed thousands daily. Many arrived believing America was freedom. What they found was overcrowded tenements, brutal labor, and discrimination, but also opportunity compared to what they left behind. The day for an immigrant family was filled with uncertainty, but also a quiet determination to endure. Afternoons dragged on. There were no weekends as we know them. Sunday might offer church and brief rest, but most days were work days. Leisure was rare and simple: a conversation on the porch, a harmonica tune, a shared laugh over something small. Joy existed, but it was fragile and precious. As evening approached, gas lamps flickered on. Electricity existed, but unevenly. Rural America remained dark. Nightfall changed the rules. Streets were dangerous. Homes were lit by oil lamps that could tip and burn everything down. Fire was a constant threat. Entire neighborhoods could disappear in hours. Dinner was modest. Families ate together not for tradition, but necessity. Food was shared carefully. Waste was unthinkable. After eating, bodies ached. Hands were cracked. Backs were bent. Yet people still talked about tomorrow, about hope, about faith, about children's futures. Before sleep, there was no endless scrolling, no artificial light to stretch the day. Darkness demanded rest. Silence settled in, broken by distant trains or coughing from the next room. People went to bed knowing tomorrow would likely be the same or worse, but they also knew they had survived another day. That was a normal day in 1900 America. No nostalgia, no filters, no romantic edits. Just resilience, hardship, quiet courage, and lives lived on the edge of loss. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The comfort we call normal today was built on days like these, on people who endured without applause, without safety, without certainty. They didn't know they were living history. They were just trying to make it to morning.